The connection to whiskey, I feel, is stronger than vodka or tequila or rum. There's something poetic about whiskey, I think, and it really touches the soul. That's why they call it the water of life, Whiskey, because it's more than just getting drunk. People drink whiskey to enjoy whiskey.
I'm Kevin Rivers, and my friend Carlos Miranda and I are two American expats who spend their days either eating or waiting to eat in our adopted home of Edinburgh. We are on a 10-episode journey to learn the stories behind some of the bars, restaurants, and coffee shops that make up this city's world-class food scene. This is Eating and Waiting to Eat.
So the very first time I came to Edinburgh was like 2008. And I came with my wife and her family. Okay. Alicia and I had just gotten married. We were like 25. And I was like, I'm in Scotland. I need to drink whiskey.
Yeah.
Not knowing anything about whiskey, literally nothing. I went to the hotel bar with Alicia one night.
And you ordered Scotch?
I didn't, actually. I asked the bartender, I was like, I've never really drank whiskey. What would you recommend? And he's like, all right, let me put together an introductory flight. It was like 5 whiskeys. I tasted the first one and it was like motor oil going down my throat. I was like, how can anybody drink this? And oh my God, I have to finish this one and I have 4 more to go. I don't even think I finished it. And it's crazy. Now, almost 20 years later, it's become a ritual. Like if I go out, I will always end dinner with a nice dram.
What would you say is your go-to whiskey? What's your flavor profile?
So I spent a lot of time on Skye. So I am very drawn to whiskeys from the inner and outer Hebrides. So I love a Talisker. I love a Torabeg. I have a lot of love for Rosé because I've gone and stayed at the distillery. And before they even released their first whiskey, there were always events around Skye. And so you could always like see the evolution of that whiskey.
When you talk about whiskey, you talk about the experience around whiskey. Yeah. I think what's really interesting about whiskey is that you have this experiential aspect to it as much as the flavor aspect. So when you talk about your love for whiskey, is it the communal aspect of it or the tasting notes and the different variations?
I enjoy the taste of whiskey very much. But whiskey to me is elevated because it's shared with people. Whiskey has this amazing unifying nature to it. It doesn't have to be many people, but like what I love about it is that it has its own place at the table. It has weight to it, right? It is a conversation starter. That communal component of it is what, in my mind, elevates whiskey.
Absolutely. I think that's a great segue into this week's episode. So why don't you introduce who we have on this week?
So today we're going to be talking to Colin Hinds, who is honestly one of the great whiskey masters. He basically knows everything that there is to know about whiskey. And it was such a joy to sit down with Colin.
I feel like he's forgotten more whiskey in the past week than I have known about in my entire life. So
100%. So Colin is the owner behind the amazing Tipsy Midgie, which is the whiskey bar among whiskey bars here in Edinburgh.
Okay, so give us the vital stats on the Tipsy Midgie.
So it opened in 2022, and it has won Best Whiskey Bar of the Year in 2023, 2024, and 2025. It's a bar, so you don't really need a reservation. I will say, however, that Colin and his crew are always hosting special events, whiskey pairings. They just did a barbecue. They have a cheese club. So I would always recommend going on tipsymidgie.com and checking out their events in case you want to go to something special.
And so when you go into Tipsy Midgie, what's your order?
You know, I like what I like, and people joke about Carlos liking a thing and how I stick with it.
Yeah.
Tipsy Midgie is the only place in town where I don't have a go-to order. Everywhere else I go, places that I love, I'm a regular. I know what I like. I get what I like. I walk into Tipsy Midgie and I am like, Colin, take the wheel. What am I drinking tonight? It's whatever Colin wants. He's never taking me down a wrong path.
So sell it to me real quick. Why is it the whiskey bar among whiskey bars?
It really does feel like a temple, a cave of wonders devoted to whiskey, but it's very accessible. At no point do you feel like, oh, I'm overwhelmed by this. I think that that's something that Colin does so beautifully.
Yeah, it's almost impossible not to have a good time.
100%.
Yeah, for me, what really stands out about it is they have such an insane collection of whiskeys there. Basically a museum of whiskey, but it's small. There aren't a ton of people in there, so you really get one-on-one attention and a curator to help navigate you through.
I agree with you 100%. I think it's a Colin and the way Colin holds court. I love it because you get to hang out with him, even though you're not the only person in there. You do feel like you get that one-to-one special treatment, and you get the history, and the love of that history really shines through whenever you ask him, recommend something to me.
Completely. I mean, the man can just tell a story.
Yeah, exactly.
He brings you in, and I think that really comes through hearing his story over the course of our interview. So I think that's a great place to jump right into the episode.
Let's do it. Hi, Colin. First and foremost, thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure.
It's a real honor to feature you and to have you on the program. We want to start at the very beginning, your superhero origin story.
Oof.
I read that you started in a kitchen as a chef when you were a teenager.
So I grew up in south side of Glasgow and Loch Lomond, kind of half and half. My mum was really ill when I was a kid. She had chronic ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis, and then I kind of became a child carer in terms of cooking. I used to cook for the family when I was a kid. I mean, I grew up in a very impoverished family. We used to get a bag of chips between the three of us, and we would share a bag of chips in the car on the way home. So we cooked basically what we could afford. We did have our own vegetable patch at the back of the house. So we grew our own potatoes, peas, carrots, grew lettuces, strawberries during the summertime. My uncle Jimmy, he was a bit of a poacher, so he would go and he would catch salmon and catch trout and things like that. So we'd always have fresh fish. So we did have access to fresh foods.
Yeah.
I'd cook a roast chicken on a Sunday. Then we'd pick the chicken apart and have curry on a Monday.
Right.
Yeah.
It was quite commonplace for that. I would do like mashed potatoes, cabbage and corned beef and maybe make a gravy. But we grew up in a typical 70s, 80s UK.
Yeah.
Didn't really have access to much. McDonald's only came into Scotland when I was about 13 or 14 years old. Yeah.
Right.
I remember when cherry tomatoes were first making an appearance and not that I want to sound too old, and people, it blew their mind. They're like, what's a cherry tomato?
Tell us about coming up through kitchens, and what was it that sparked your lifelong love for cooking and eventually whiskey?
I mean, there's a lot of chefs out there that go, my mum was a brilliant chef and therefore I am a brilliant chef. Unfortunately, that's not my story. When I was 14, 15, I got a part-time job working in a local Italian takeaway pizzeria restaurant. I just realised I really love cooking. I mean, and then we made the stuff from scratch. I was making bread, calzones, pizza, prepping vegetables, doing my mise en place, and I just really loved doing it.
That's amazing. Is there anything that you cook now that goes back to that time in your life?
Not so much, but I do remember when I was working in France, some French chefs obviously, and I opened their eyes to the delights of a pizza crunch.
Yeah.
So then I went to college, culinary school, got an apprenticeship and worked my way through various restaurants and hotels in Glasgow, then travelled the world and came back to Scotland a few years ago. The food access in the 90s and early 90s in the UK, you quite remember this is pre-YouTube, pre-internet. To actually go and be a chef and learn about other cuisines, you had to travel, you had to go to different parts of the world.
So is that what your world travels was? Were you out there cooking, learning different cuisines?
Partially. I did it because obviously it was a rite of passage. When you're a young chef and you hear about chefs travelling, they'd be going to France or going to Australia or going to the USA or going different countries and learning about things. And it was quite easy. It was quite accessible then. It's a little bit harder now, I think. But it was also a good way to travel and still earn a decent wage, as opposed to people who travel and they maybe work in bars or they go fruit picking or potato picking, or particularly in Australia at the time, it was a big thing to go to Australia in the late 90s, early 90s for chefs because the food produce was just unbelievable. I remember the first time I tried a ripe mango. And I talk about this story quite a lot because obviously the fruit that we get in the UK, we've got brilliant raspberries, brilliant strawberries, gooseberries, but proper ripe mango.
Yeah.
First time I tried it, I thought it was like crack cocaine. I was like, what is this? This is unbelievable. And there's 28 varieties of this. Are you kidding me on?
Yeah.
It was like the most sweetest sherbet tasting thing I ever had in my life.
Were you going to these places with jobs already secured, or were you kind of going there and finding your way?
More or less. So because of, I did quite well as a chef, as a young chef. I won quite a few awards and stuff. And my career pathway just kind of seemed to unfold in front of me. I married an Australian girl, so that probably helped. Obviously, being in Australia, I had a good base and I could pick and choose certain jobs. But I worked for the Hilton Group when I was in Australia. Then I was exec chef at a massive property in Scarborough Beach. So that was like, we did 1,200 covers a day. It was right on the beachfront, so we would do 300-400 for breakfast, 300-400 for lunch, 300-400 for dinner, and then we opened up a wine bar next to it, so then was executive chef looking after that as well. It was just phenomenal. And
How old are you at this point?
24.
Oh, wow.
24,
Wow.
25.
Yeah.
26. Then there was a brigade of about 35, 40 chefs. We were doing turnover of millions per year. And bearing in mind, this is late 90s, early 90s, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money. And then because I did really well there and really cut my teeth, we got to travel, worked through Indonesia, Kuala Lumpur, Jakarta, Bali.
With the same group?
Well, I worked initially with the Hilton Group and then found jobs when I was over there doing consultancy, development, and just kind of helping various restaurants. It was just a phenomenal experience.
And what about whiskey? Was whiskey always in your blood?
Whiskey's always been in my blood and always in my belly.
Right.
Yeah, so generations ago, my family owned Cardew Distillery up in Speyside. Well, my ancient family, not anything really directly linked to me now. But because of that, there was always the mythology, the story. Oh yeah, your great-great-great-great-granny used to have the Cardew Distillery. And my granny, she loved a wee dram. And my aunties loved whiskey. So my uncles and my aunties and my granny, they all loved a dram. So there was always this kind of attachment of joy in my mind growing up about whiskey.
Yeah.
You'd be at family parties and I'd be lying in bed listening to them laughing and joking and singing. And I don't know what it's like when you're growing up, but in Scotland of that time, the kids used to get taken out of bed and had to do a party piece whenever there was a family gathering. Yeah. And if you don't know what that is, it's like basically you have to go sing a song or you have to tell jokes you're the in-house entertainment.
Yeah.
So we would get up and they'd all have bottles of whiskey and they looked really exciting and, you know, the artwork that was on them and just the joy. And so, I mean, Uncle Robert was a whiskey collector. And he had this kind of man cave before men caves were even a thing. Yeah. And he had literally hundreds of bottles of whiskey. And me and my cousin...
More than you have in Tipsy Midgie right now?
Probably not. And he collected a lot of miniatures as well. So me and my cousin David, we would go up. My cousin David was a couple of years younger than me. And we would go up to the man cave and watch my Uncle Robert's TV because it was big. Yeah. And you just see all these glinting, shiny, beautiful bottles of whiskey. So there was that kind of attachment, I suppose, from a young age of that's joy, that's happiness. And then as I was travelling all over the world, being Scottish, people would ask me about whiskey. So I kind of became an unofficial brand ambassador. And people would say, oh, what does a real Scotsman drink? And you're like, oh, well, we drink this. And we learned about whiskey. It was kind of part and parcel of our upbringing. You know, we'd go to distilleries. I remember going to Auchentoshan Distillery, which was kind of my local one in Glasgow at the time. I was like 16, 17 years old and telling him I was 21. And the guy was looking at me, so I'd say, hey, right, son. Yeah. You know, we'd go to the casino when we were 18, 19. We'd have me and my pals, we would chip in, we'd get like a single malt. Yeah. For what we could afford at the time. Right. I think we were James Bond. Yeah. You know, we're drinking single malts on the racks. Yeah. You know, so it was fun.
By the way, I love your American accent.
I've got many.
I almost feel like if your Scottish accent wasn't as good as it is, I'd almost make you do the whole interview as in your American accent. You know, it's interesting that you talk about the link between food and whiskey and joy.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I love the whiskey industry so much. Everybody has a story that's connected to something that's very personal, whether it's the hip flask as a best man at your wedding, whether it's your granny's topping up your granny's drink and feeling important because you get praised for doing that, or you know, that everybody has a story of, oh, I remember when my firstborn and we drank this to wet the baby's head. Yeah. The connection to whiskey, I feel, is stronger than vodka or tequila or rum. There's something poetic about whiskey, I think, and it really touches the soul. That's why they call it the water of life, whiskey, because it's more than just getting drunk. People drink whiskey to enjoy whiskey. They don't necessarily drink it to get drunk.
It's almost like the way people approach wine.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few spirits where people do that, I feel like.
I've had fine tequilas, I've had amazing rums, and I've drank them all neat. But yeah, there's something very specific about the variation of flavour of whiskey as well. Yeah. 170 distilleries, give or take. You've got a myriad of flavours. Every distillery has its own backstory, whether it's a new distillery, an old distillery. It's the mythology behind whiskey is just phenomenal as well.
Yeah. Now, I've read somewhere that you also worked for Disney.
I did. I loved it.
Did you?
Loved it. So I was Disney Cruise Lines. That was just an experience like no other. We did the Caribbean, Mexican coast.
The same cruise ship?
Yeah. So it was a Disney fantasy. Right. Got to go and see the ship get built. They flew us over to Papenburg in Germany. While it was getting built, we did Disney training, Disney school. Right. And I know people pay good money to go and do it, and I got it for free.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And learned all about the philosophy of hospitality there. I think everybody did Disney training regardless of your position. They even sent me on deep sea survival training.
Really?
Which was brilliant.
That's awesome.
Like, literally, part of it, they obviously sink you to the bottom of this massive pool and see how you can handle getting out of a kind of obstructed area, and then you have to swim up to the surface and then pull over these safety recovery ships and stuff.
Right.
And they're supposed to take 3 people to turn them over because they have them upside down because obviously in a bad circumstance. I did it by myself. I was like,
amazing.
I'm like, obviously in my prime, 6'2", I'm built like a tank, pulling this thing over and everybody's going, right, I want to be in his ship.
Yeah. Well, listen, if that ever happens, I'd rather be on your ship as well.
Truthfully, one of the hardest, but one of the most fun jobs I ever had. You're working 20 hours a day. I mean, I think I clocked up about 120 hours a week as part of your contract. Yeah. So it's not like you're going into it blind.
Right. Yeah. On your feet. It's like hard physical labor.
Yeah.
It's not like...
If people knew the conditions and the pay that certain people got on a cruise ship, I'm not saying they're exploited, not at all. However, I think a lot of people would say, no, wait a minute. They probably would never go on a cruise ship. And I was one of the lucky ones because of my position. I got a cabin to myself.
Yeah.
And in the same size of cabin, there was literally people who were working in other departments, and there'd be 6 of them in the same cabin. I don't know what the going rate now is. However, there's people there that earn 50 cents, $1 an hour, give or take. And obviously they rely on tips.
Wow. So what'd you learn from Disney in the hospitality sense? What was that training like compared to the training that you had working in all these restaurants?
Well, working in restaurants, particularly back of house, as a chef, it's more about have a good, strong functioning brigade. It's only when you become an owner, or if you then move into an overall function, you then need to take into consideration other aspects of the job.
Yeah.
But in terms of hospitality, I learned so much. I think that really honed certain philosophies and certain criteria, I think, for being successful in terms of making people happy.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that we want to talk to you about is your philosophy around hospitality. One of the things that stands out when anybody spends any amount of time with you is your approach to hospitality. You make everybody feel like you've known them forever. Is there a direct link between that Disney training and how you take care of people now?
I don't think it's a direct link, but that might have honed it slightly, or it maybe gave me a bit more structure. Right. Because I've always been like, most chefs really just want to make people happy. It's a community thing. It probably goes into something deep inside of that philosophy of just sitting down with people and having something to eat. It's quite a primeval thing.
Is Tipsy Midgie the first place that you've been at the front of house?
Oh, the only place.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I was always running the kitchen. And I'd always hired a manager, or always hired a GM, or always hired a restaurant manager. And even when people would say, oh, can I meet the chef, or can I thank the chef personally, I'd always say no. Partially because if you go and say hello to one person, you kind of have to say hello to everybody. Yeah. And I never wanted someone to feel that I wasn't looking after them. I hate it when chefs come out and, do the rounds, and it's just, that's not personally how I feel as a chef. I was offered many times by investors and backers, we'll open up a restaurant and just imagine it's your name on the front door. I'm like, never ever. Even though I was offered many times to do various TV shows and things, never wanted to do it. When I did stuff like that, I always did it behind the scenes as development. I never wanted to be a celebrity chef.
Yeah. Well, I'm honored that you came on the podcast.
By the way, Colin's Lobster Shack sounds great.
Right.
Well, funny enough, I do have a concept. I was going to call it Colin Mary. I was going to call it Colin Mary.
Talking about the bar, so you've won so many awards.
Well,
right?
No, not really, but we're doing okay.
Okay, all right. Then now it's not the time to be humble. So among the awards you won Scotland's Best Whiskey Bar in 2023.
23, 24, 25. Oh, and also won Whiskey Guru as well.
He was getting there.
I was going to get there, but listen, I appreciate that. This is the Colin show. This is the Colin show.
I know we're on a time scale.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to know, what is it about you and what is it about Tipsy Midgie that makes it special?
That's a good question. From my point of view, we just try and make people feel valued, make them feel welcome, listen to them, and give them space to enjoy things, which is why we do things like the Cheese Clan, where we pair whiskey and cheese, which is why we do things like whiskey and chocolate, whiskey and charcuterie, whiskey for Valentine's, doing mini petit desserts, doing tipsy treats at the Fringe. We're trying to give different options to people to enjoy whiskey. People sitting on a big leather Chesterfield, smoking cigars and drinking whiskey. That's never been us. We're not anti that, but we happen to be a completely different format. We're about inclusion, we're about accessibility, we're trying to create a community. Hospitality's really struggling.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of places that are doing incredibly well, but there's a lot of places that aren't. But it's a very difficult sphere. So we want people to have as many options and try as many different things as they can. That feeling of belonging is kind of been taken away from us.
Well, one of the things that I really love at Tipsy Midgie is the extent to which you go to push people outside their comfort zone. You do a lot of getting to know and understand people and what they like, and then showing them things that they may not be aware of, may be inclined not to try. So I think it's a place for that aha moment, right? The first time you tried something new where it was like, holy shit, I didn't know it could do that. Yeah.
I mean, I suppose we approach it from a taste point of view.
Right.
You can go into certain bars or certain environments and they'll do it from a regionality, or, you know, if you like peaty whiskey, then you're going to love Islay, or you like this, you're going to love that. I'll do a little bit of a deeper dive. Do you have a sweet tooth?
Yeah.
Often what I'll do is if people say, well, and I'll look for their body language, I'll look for their expression. I don't really like sweet. And I go, aye, you do. I'll maybe then go, right, well, I'll do this whiskey that's maybe 10% sweeter than what they would maybe have got. So I'll then maybe get them something and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. They've maybe been told a bourbon cask finish, well, that's got heaps of vanilla and it's got sweetness because it contained bourbon, or it's not always the case. It depends on the age, depends on the strength, depends on so many different factors. So you've got to really do a deep dive. And I'll say, well, do you like spicy food? Do you like this? Do you like that? And I'll get them thinking, and then I'll reframe things as well, particularly with the barbecue. Because I'll then conjure up an image about, oh, for me, this is like char grill and a tomahawk steak.
Yeah.
Or you're by the beach and you've got a bonfire going, and then they can almost smell the fire.
Yeah.
And rather than using boring descriptors that people don't always connect or engage with, I try and evoke memories.
Between like a kilo of tomahawk and a cake, I'm always going to go with a tomahawk. Like I'm always going to go with the tomahawk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then the cake. But between the first.
Can I go half and half?
Yeah.
A tomahawk.
A tomahawk cake. Oh, I think we're onto something, guys. The next big thing.
Also, my recruitment has been spot on as well. Like my manager, Lucy, she worked probably a little bit more corporate. So she worked at the Malt Whisky Society. She worked at Scottish Whisky Experience. So her experience in whiskey is phenomenal as well. So that's also great. The people that we hire have to have enthusiasm, they have to be friendly, they have to look after the guest experience, but also they have to know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when you go into certain bars, they just don't have that level of experience, or it's a bit more transient, so they don't have time to maybe engage with you the way you'd want to.
So do you think there's a place for the more commercial places that take that more generic approach in the education of whiskey? And
I think there's a place for everybody. Edinburgh's got some phenomenal whiskey bars. And the great thing about Edinburgh and Glasgow and Scotland as a whole is you can find what you're looking for. If you want something that's got folk music, you can go to a certain bar. If you want something that's a little bit more refined, you go to another bar. If you want something that's more old school, traditional pub style, you go to that bar. And then on top of that, you've also got the Johnnie Walker experience in Edinburgh. You've also got Scottish whisky experience. So between Swee, Johnnie Walker, and all the great bars in Edinburgh, like this is probably the most competitive, toughest market for bars anywhere, for whiskey bars.
Yeah.
One of the things about Tipsy is we keep our covers down. So it's a more bespoke experience. It's only 25 to 30 guests, and we typically, unless we've got an event on, we'll cap at about 20 guests at any one time, because we want to give a personalised individual experience. If you've got a really high turnover, if you've got 300 people in a bar and it's rammed and there's 5 or 6 of you behind the bar and they're doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. So I understand we're in a bit of a privileged position where we can give that kind of experience. We also have a great network of other bars that we send people to, and by the same token, people send to us as well.
Yeah.
So it's a really great collaborative industry. We're very much about supporting our whiskey community all the time. And we do a lot of collaborations. In fact, we try our best to support all the brands. We go to festivals. So there's very much at the heart of everything we do is about collaboration and uplifting the community. So definitely, and again, we're the new boys on the block. Obviously, my unfortunate still getting over cancer treatment. So I would say we've only been open properly for about a year to 18 months. We're not even full-time open yet. We're only open about 20, 25 hours to the public. Which is quite, when you think about it that way, it's quite phenomenal. The fact that we've even managed to make any kind of impact. We might be open in short bursts, but what we do is to the best of our ability.
I think just from my experience, what makes Tipsy really special is that I feel there may be 15 other people in the bar, but I feel like you've taken care of me. You've pushed me. One of the things that I actually really enjoy about it, I can go to you and be like, I just turned 43. What do I drink? Something that I've also admired about you is that your entrepreneurial spirit. I think that that's also unique to what you guys do. And you've just talked about it. It isn't just a whiskey bar. You're doing the cheese clan. You're doing the barbecue. You look at what you guys are doing at Tipsy, and there are very few other bars that do that kind of breadth of activity. Is that something that you enjoy doing? Is that something that you need to do from a business perspective? Both?
Actually, I don't know anybody else that's doing to the same extent. You know, whether it's entrepreneurial or just because we enjoy doing it, I wanted it to be something where you would find a place for something that you would enjoy.
Yeah.
So whether it's whiskey and chocolate, whether it's whiskey and cheese, whether it's going to events, whether it's doing our summer barbecue, whether it's our Christmas parties, which are pretty legendary.
Yeah.
Well, we only wanted to do one Christmas party in December, but it sold out in about 40 minutes.
Wow.
And then I got DM'd off of people, I missed the ticket sale for that. Could you put on another? I said, yeah, of course. So we ended up doing 2 a year.
Yeah.
Because one party is just not enough. And then do a Hogmanay party, and we opened up our own in-house whiskey club. I resisted pressure for that for about 18 months. Quite a lot of our regulars were like, we want our own club, we want our own club, we want our own club. And I was like, I'm not so sure, because it's quite a big undertaking to make sure that people get, not value for money, but just to make sure they get added value about being a club. So we then worked out a format to make it happen. So we kind of started it properly in February, and I've got like 60 odd members. And that's just in the space of a few months. And they've all got their own T-shirts, and it looks like a big army coming out now. And from that entrepreneurial thing, the overall goal was to have 5 Tipsy Midgies, 1 in each whiskey region.
Right.
Whether you consider there should be 6 whiskey regions or 5 pushing to get their own whiskey regionality as well, who knows? Hopefully by the time this goes out, I don't know when it goes out, we might have a second bar signed for. Yeah. So we're in the process of negotiating at the moment, and things are looking strong, but like anything, it could be aborted at the last minute.
Yeah.
But hopefully by the time this goes out, we'll have a second Tipsy Midgie.
Yeah, I feel like it's just in your blood. Like, it just seems like you need to always be going. Are you able to relax? Like
during me a shark
during that January, were you able to just chill out, or?
The January was partly about recovery. Unfortunately, still with my condition.
Yeah.
I still can't quite work. Like even today, for example, I've had to time my medication.
Right.
And I said, not that I want to go into that in too much detail, but even like today, I've had to work my medication so that I can actually talk with this for an hour or so.
Yeah.
So the January thing was mainly about recovery.
Got it. Got it.
Recovery, and then just we had to give the bar a bit of a refresh in certain areas, because it is an old building. Yeah. It's been a bar for about 90 years, that building. So, like a lot of old buildings in Edinburgh, needs a little bit of TLC.
Yeah. Definitely.
You've mentioned your personal journey right now and the challenges and opportunities, and also the challenges and opportunities in hospitality as a whole. But as a business owner, like what keeps you up at night?
I wouldn't say I'm kept awake at night per se, because I've got a little bit more confidence in my ability. Mm-hmm. I'm now in my 50s, so now I can be a little bit more chill about not taking the highs too highs and the lows too low. And yeah, we're just a little bit more confident in our ability, maybe. Mm-hmm. Like all business owners, you're only as good as your last meal, or you're only as good as your last dram. You should take nothing for granted, even when you're doing well. Like something can come around the corner. Business expenses are, unpredictable. I mean, the fact that I've owned restaurants before having the bar has helped me enormously. Yeah. So this is my 4th project in Edinburgh. Right. Obviously 3 restaurants we had previously. Although Whiskey Forager was probably more of a prototype restaurant and more of a kind of, how would this work? That was just a tasting menu, 6 courses paired with 6 drams. It's definitely something that I'm going to revisit at some point once we've got Tipsy Midgie sorted, or Tipsy Midgies sorted.
Exactly.
Was it hard opening Tipsy Midgie, this new whiskey bar in a land of whiskey bars?
Oh, it was scary.
You're approaching it a different way from a lot of the people out there. It's got to be...
I agree. And, we're not backed. We're a truly independent bar.
Yeah.
We're not backed by a brewery. We're not backed by a hotel. We're not backed by anybody else. We don't have a sister or a...
Just Bank of Colin.
Yeah. And this was the thing as well. So my dad kind of taught me a little bit about don't overextend. If you can't afford it, don't take out debt. When we opened up Kilted Lobster, we had IKEA tables and IKEA glasses And then towards the end, we're buying plates that are £150 a plate. We're buying Riedel crystal glasses, but we started off small and then reinvested. And it's the same with Tipsy Midgie. If you look at Tipsy from now compared to even 12 months ago, because people come in and go, oh, you've done something different in here. What have you done? We've got a lot of beautiful artwork. We've got lots of really cool whiskey memorabilia, but we're always adding to the bar. We're always trying to make it better. We're always trying to improve what we do. And it's not done. It's meant to be done in a fun way rather than a kind of arrogant way. A bar could go and have 5,000 bottles, 10,000 bottles, 20,000 bottles of whiskey, but there's only so much whiskey that people can kind of comprehend. Yeah. Because we always say over 1,000 bottles. The true number is a lot more than that.
Yeah.
We've got 4 different menus.
Right.
But generally speaking, we give one menu to the guests that come in. We do have the next elevated menu, and then we've got another menu above that, and then we've got another menu above that.
That we have not seen, so we're not cool enough
There's
yet.
2 levels we have not seen. There are 2 levels.
Exactly. It's like a video game, like unlocking these achievements.
Yeah, we'll see how well the podcast does. If we get enough viewers, enough listeners, we'll get that 3rd rung.
Well, it's mainly because we don't want necessarily to overwhelm people.
Yeah.
These are all kind of unicorn whiskies.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's hard for people to imagine what that tastes like.
Yeah.
And when you see the price of it, you kind of go, well, I'm never going to be able to drink it anyway. But when we first opened up, we'd have people who would come in and they're like, oh, can I see the bottle? And because I'm trying my best to make people feel welcome, I'd be like, yeah, no problem, and showing. And then they're taking photographs of the bottle for Instagram, pretending that they're drinking it. And then you've always got the potential they could drop it.
Yeah.
Or you could drop it. So the less handling of whiskey, the better.
Right.
Yeah.
Was my kind of eventual realization.
That makes sense.
Before we move on to the wrap up here, talk to us a little bit more about your ambitions. We've talked about Tipsy Midgie in every region, which, by the way, like I could see the passport, just like if you were at coffee, you got to go to every single one. And then when you come back, you do get a dram from the 1920s, right?
Or you get access to the secret menu.
Exactly. You get access to the secret menu after you've been to
the passport menu, passport to paradise.
Exactly. Are there international ambitions?
I mean, we would love to open up somewhere in London.
Yeah.
I feel that a Tipsy Midgie in London would fare very well.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of expats in London as well who would love probably that little piece of Scotland, that genuine piece of Scotland in London. We would love to have a look at somewhere like Tokyo, somewhere in Japan perhaps. Japan is quite saturated with whiskey, to be fair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we would add a different dimension, a different element, or a different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
The Indian market looks interesting at the moment. India have a huge consumption of whiskey. New York would be a fabulous place as well.
Yeah.
I've got family in New York, so it's something, and I'm very familiar with New York.
Yeah.
It's something we've looked at as a kind of potential future plan.
Yeah.
Sometimes people expand too quickly and they lose a little bit of the character.
Yeah.
So you don't want to open up too quick, too soon.
Yeah.
And then you can lose some of what made you popular in the first place.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a steady process of, but don't get me wrong, we've already highlighted places where we would like to be.
Yeah.
Because you've still got to work towards something that I believe you've still got to have a philosophy, a dream, but you also have to have small markers to get there.
Yeah.
You can't just go, I just want world domination without any realization of how you're going to get there.
Yeah. So. Well, you can count us both in being the first people to like do the full passport.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be amazing. Our little punch card.
I feel like there has to be a time element too.
If you do the weekend, you get a gold star.
Yeah, exactly. And Colin gives you, I just want a dram from the 1920s. Now that you have that in my head,
Not next time you're in, not a problem.
All right, next time we're in. So we like to end with a couple of quick fire questions. Yeah. So I'm going to start off. What's the hidden gem on the Tipsy menu that not enough people order?
Ooh. Cardo. Just because of the family connection.
Fabulous. Okay, fabulous.
When a friend comes to visit Edinburgh, what restaurant are you taking them to?
It depends on the friend.
A good friend from New York.
Oh, you know what? I can't answer that question.
Okay, fair enough.
I can't, because there's so many great restaurants and I don't want to single one out.
Okay. All right. You have a full belly.
Yeah.
Right? It's a cold, wet, windy Edinburgh night. What dram are you drinking?
Oh, so depending on if the house is warm, I'm having a Glenmorangie Signet or a Signet Reserve. Or if I want peated, I'm going to be having either a Lafroy Cardass or an Ardbeg.
So how are you making that decision?
I'll probably have all three. If I'm having whiskey, I'll probably have 3 or 4. Right? I very rarely will just have 1 dram. But let's say it's Christmas Day, it's cold, it's been snowing, I've had an amazing meal with family and friends, and I don't want any more food, but I'll probably just sit with a Glenmorangie Signet. Yeah. It's luxury in a glass. Right. It's chocolatey, it's orangey, it's got beautiful kind of coffee notes. You're just sitting there and you're like, oh, this is just super smooth and luxury drink. But then I want something a bit spikier. So we're going Lafroig.
Right.
Okay.
And then if I want something that's spiky, but maybe got a little bit more flavour element in terms of being a little bit experimental, I'll probably pick a committee release from Ardbeg.
All right.
Amazing.
I love it. Last question we've got for you. Rice, bread, pasta. You can only have one. Savage. You can only have one for the rest of your life. Which one are you picking?
Can I have different types of bread? Or
Yeah.
Different types of pasta, different types of rice?
Yeah.
Oh. So I've been ketogenic since January, more or less. Right. I've been on a bit of a ketosis journey, been trying to lose a bit of weight, and I've missed probably the most pasta.
Pasta. That's my pick too.
I mean, I do love bread. I make some of the best bread you ever taste in your life, particularly if we're using whiskey in the bread. Yeah, we're doing like a nice kind of Octomore sourdough or something like that. Yeah. But
now you're talking my language.
Pasta, because of the variations, I suppose because of my very first job, it was Italian, and I've always loved not just pasta, but I love making gnocchi.
Yeah.
My gnocchi, my risotto. That's why I was humming and hawing between the rice, because I'm thinking nasi goreng or risotto is pretty phenomenal, but I'm going to go pasta.
I love it.
This is a game. This is a question that my kids, my 13-year-old twins, we play all the time. What's amazing is that we joke that you have to say the answer quickly, but it always turns into an 8-minute long. Right. Well, this is why I chose this.
I feel like you learn so much about how someone thinks about food.
Because we're in Scotland or the UK, I think you should be adding potatoes to that list.
Right. So
if we're going down that
rice, bread, pasta, potatoes, what are you going
Potatoes.
With? Potatoes. All right.
Because what is better than a pomme puree or a potato dauphinoise?
Yeah.
You know, like there's nothing better than potato dauphinoise. Nothing.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. Colin, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure being here. Lovely to see you both again.
I couldn't be more grateful for Colin taking the time to come on and share his story with us.
Totally. He's such a good storyteller. Listeners, honestly, if you live in Edinburgh or if you're visiting Edinburgh, I would say that there is no visit to Edinburgh, no stopping in Edinburgh without a pilgrimage to the Tipsy Midgie.
Even if you've lived in Edinburgh or you're an amazing connoisseur of whiskey, it's still a must go for those who have not gone. And if you have gone, I have no doubt that you plan on going back soon because it's really a special experience.
Who's next on the podcast?
So next up, we have Roberta Hall McCarran of Little Chart Room, Eleanor, and Ardfern. Just a tour de force in the Edinburgh food scene. I'm really excited to share that one. It was a very interesting conversation.
It was a lot of fun to record. We talked about her origin story. We talked about those restaurants. And we also talked a lot about McDonald's and chicken nugget, which was lovely. Well, I look forward to dropping that one. So in the meantime, listeners, hit subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and drop us a line and let us know what you think of the show.